Welcome everyone to the another episode of GMAT Club MBA Spotlight. I hope everyone is healthy and keeping safe. My name is Priyank and I'm a GMAT Club moderator. And today we have with us Shelly from Georgetown University McDonough School of Business. Good afternoon, Shelly. How are you?
Hi, good afternoon. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for taking out time for doing this spotlight session with us. So a quick rundown through the format. So the format is going to be like this. We'll have a presentation by you, and post that we'll take up a small Q&A if the time permits. And in case our viewers have any other further questions, you can join the McDonough team post this session in the Zoom breakout session. So over to you now, Shelly.
Right, wonderful. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. So excited that you're joining GMAT Club today to learn a little bit more about Georgetown University's McDonough School of Business. My name is Shelly Heinrich. I'm the Associate Dean of the MBA program for admissions for both the full-time and flex program. So I'm going to share with you a little bit more about why I love Georgetown and why you may consider it for your MBA. On a personal note, I've worked here at Georgetown for almost 8 years and also did the executive MBA at Georgetown. So I drank the Kool-Aid. I was a staff member and then wanted to be a student, and now I'm an alum. Great. So I'm sure you all are kind of thinking, why should I get an MBA? And you're doing a lot of research, and many of you have different reasons. I think, though, with the bottom line being that the MBA will provide you with a strong ROI. It will provide you with an option to either enhance your career if you like what you're doing, or switch careers if you want to try something different. And so these kind of different buckets of people and interests show that there's just different interests for pursuing an MBA, but definitely a strong ROI coming out of it. So what exactly is the Georgetown McDonough ROI? So I love this picture. This was taken pre-COVID, but I love it because it shows the power of our community, both students as well as alum, on a final exam day of one of our leadership classes called Executive Challenge. And this is the end of that day where people have gone through a rigorous, 7 hours of case competitions, where they are now celebrating the winning team and then networking with our alum. And so we really like to do leadership learning hands-on. And this is exactly a great example of that hands-on leadership learning. So, what are some of the more also tangible ROI benefits of coming to Georgetown? Certainly I'm sure you all dig into rankings a little bit, and some of the ones that I'm most proud of are here, but I want to point out that the number one best trained graduate, whenever I hear a number one ranking, I'm always wanting to learn a little bit more. And this ranking that Bloomberg Business Suite did, they did it in 2019 and 2020. They sent out a list of the top MBA programs to Fortune 500, Fortune 100 employers. And they asked them to rank different schools on different elements. And there were a little over 3,000 responses from employers. And those employers ranked Georgetown number one for producing the best trained graduates. And that was in 2019. They didn't ask the same question in 2020, so we still hold this 2019 ranking. But in 2020, we actually got number one for most innovative and creative graduates. So, strong brand, strong reputation with employers and alum. I'll go through this a little bit later in the presentation, but also, strong ROI in terms of your career, in terms of getting a job offer, accepting a job offer in a variety of different industries. So why specifically should you choose Georgetown? There's many reasons. I could talk forever about why I love Georgetown, but there's kind of three that stand out. One is the global mindset. Oftentimes when you say, what do you think of when you think of Georgetown McDonough? People will say global. And that's for many reasons. One, we have 37 countries represented in our incoming program of only about 260 students. So there's 37 countries represented and 260 students. With an international population that's only about a third. So that's a huge diversity of the population. All of our students also consult for a global client. So everyone will do a consulting project. This isn't just a global trip abroad. This is an actual company with a project that you will complete for them over the course of 6 to 8 weeks. DC is also a very global city. So there's 177 embassies located here. There's organizations like the World Bank and the IMF and other multinational organizations. So your living learning laboratory at Georgetown is very global. Second is Washington, DC access. I'm not originally from DC. I'm originally from Texas, but I've lived in DC now for, a little over 10 years, and I absolutely love it. It is an intersection of for-profit, nonprofit, government, social, all convening in this phenomenal city that's rich with culture and cuisine and outdoor life. That's also just a very young, energetic city. It's a big city with a small town feel is how I like to describe it. But by being here, you do get access to employers, to alum, to speakers. You don't have to budget flights or trains to go to meet with employers, right? If you were in the kind of a more rural area, you have to budget that into your expenses, and you're not going to have as much access. I think if I were attending undergrad, perhaps being in a little bit more of a remote area might be nice and relaxing. But if I'm in business school, I have a couple of goals, and those goals are professional related, and so the DC provides you with a lot of access. The third is principled leadership. So we do focus on really growing your co-curricular as well as curricular leadership skills. So that slide I showed you a few slides ago with all of those people, that was a leadership final exam, a leadership class final exam. So that's how we teach leadership, very hands-on. The first leadership class that you take also focuses on how do you learn how to give and receive feedback? How do you learn how to manage peers? How do you learn about implicit biases that you have or diversity and inclusion? And so we wrestle with topics about leadership. We put you in scenarios where you're going to practice it. And then we also encourage you to take a leadership position in a student club. One of the things that sets Georgetown apart is that you have a real probability to have a leadership position in a student club, which is helpful when you go to compete against all the other MBA graduates out there that are also competing for the same jobs. There's 350 board positions within the 40 student clubs. So almost everyone can have a board position or potentially even two. So love DC again. It blends on the left, the historic, with the middle, the corporate. That's Roslyn right over the bridge of Georgetown. And on the right with the young professional, kind of night scene and lovely, lovely young professional scene. This is our campus. So you'll see there on the left, that's Healy Hall. That's the famous original Georgetown building from 1789. You'll see how close we are to the Washington Monument and to Watergate and the Potomac water river there in the middle. In the middle is Hariri Building. That is your business school building on our campus. So you'll take all your classes there. Professors will be there. Events, speakers, everything is in this building, which will be your home. And on the right is the interior. It is a beautiful building. I know that's not, your main criteria for choosing a business school. I will say though, it's a phenomenal place to be for a couple of years. It's a beautiful space. So, we have a full-time and flex program, the Flex MBA program. Many of you may be logging in or are probably focused on the full-time program. So I'll spend most of the time talking about that. But, I do put the Flex MBA in here because they're very similar, right? So both of them are the same degree, meaning they both have the same 54 credits. They both allow you to do certificates if you want to graduate with a STEM designation, meaning you can stay in the US for 3 years without an H-1B visa. They both have the intensive learning experiences, which are these fabulous 1-week intense classes that you can take in very interesting niche topics. And they both have cohort structure. You get access to the Career Center, both of you, both flex and full-time. The difference is flex students don't get to do an internship because they are working full-time. So you wouldn't have time to do a full-time internship. And then, you're both a part of the same alumni network. These are a group of students that are prepping, getting ready for interviews and presentations. Both programs do the global business experience and have access to the same international treks. So these are just some countries and some companies that we've gone to, but we've been doing this for decades. So we've gone almost all over the world. You do this in the March of your second year. So if you're entering next year, you would be doing this in March 2024. And so it's basically kind of the second year of your program. We have a phenomenal community. My goal for you is to ask any Georgetown alum, any McDonough alum, what they like best about Georgetown. And I believe and predict they will tell you the community. We have a phenomenal, diverse community of students, again, from all over the world, all different backgrounds, different industries. And it's just a great positive experience to learn about other cultures and to share and discourse with differing viewpoints and to learn from one another. These are some various partnerships and programs that we are a part of. I definitely encourage you to research these. We could do entire presentations on each of these partnerships alone, but these are great partnerships, some of which there are scholarships related to them. Others are more preparation and partnership. And the network, our alum are phenomenal. I will tell you that, in May 2020, when people were losing their jobs due to COVID and people were getting laid off and all of that, our alum literally banded together and got our students jobs. I mean, we actually even have kind of news articles out there that talks about this Hoyas Helping Hoyas initiative. Our alum are phenomenal. They give back. This is a picture of all of our alum, obviously again pre-COVID, but they come and they care about our students. And so we look to admit students who are going to be phenomenal alum, just like this. There's our dean too in the middle. Our dean has that purple tie and he's having a blast as well. Okay. Snapshot of what the full-time MBA curriculum looks like. The takeaway from this slide is that the green is core and the blue is electives. And you have over 100 electives to choose from, and you don't have to choose one. You don't have to choose like eye concentration. That's one of the benefits of coming to Georgetown is you don't get forced to do 2 years of a curriculum. You have a lot of flexibility. If you so desire, we also have dual degree programs on the right with our different schools. So you can do a dual degree. And then on the left, you'll see partnerships that we have with some study abroad institutions throughout the world. If you're a flex student, you can do this curriculum in 26 months to 5 years. So you really have that flexibility to choose. Same curriculum, just spread out. So essentially, this is a 3-year course plan. If you do it in 3 years, it means you're taking about 2 classes at a time, right? If you stretch it out, you can do less at a time. If you're crunching it to 26 months, you might be taking 3 classes at a time for a lot of the semesters. Okay. So in the last kind of part of the presentation, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Career Center and the career resources because they're phenomenal in my opinion. I've worked at 4 different business schools and our Career Center is top notch. So you will actually start working with the Career Center from the summer before you start the program. So like this coming June, you'll start working with the Career Center. The goal with that is to get you completely prepared so that by the time classes start in August, you are ready to go. You're ready to be employer front facing. Okay, so we have summer career curriculum and onboarding. You'll actually even chat with your career consultant in July before you start the program to kind of get an overview of, all right, this is what I think I should be doing or think I want to be doing. How do I recruit for those jobs? Like when does consulting recruit? When does product management and technology recruit? Finance, and they will walk you through that. We have career coaches divided into 14 practices, industry practice leads. So these are people that not only work with the companies, but they work with you in that industry. So they're experts. And our Career Center staff come from industry. So these are people that have, our Career Center staff member that works with the finance students has worked in finance for her whole career. The person that works in consulting worked in consulting. So they know the industry. A lot of them even recruited when they were in that industry. So they know what they're talking about and they're great resources. And they really on the bottom, that personalized job search framework, one size doesn't fit all for students, right? Depending on what you're recruiting for, it's going to look different. I mean, some industries are very structured in how they recruit. Others are just in time. It's an alumni network. It's, networking, it's meetings. So they will help you navigate that. So we talked a little bit about what you'll do starting in June, the webinar series, the job search course, and then the career consultant that professionally reviews your career portfolio. So you are ready to go by the time that you start the program. We like to think of your kind of your job search framework as yes, having your career portfolio, then determining what industry you want to go into, what function you want to do, and the geography. Like, do you only want to work in, the Bay Area and San Francisco? Do you only want to work on the East Coast? Or are you open to anywhere in the world, frankly? And so that's what you really kind of have to start thinking about, because the more you can kind of define those, the better you're able to articulate with employers and companies. We'll then help you work on a target company list. So, okay, if we know what kind of industries, functions, geographies, we'll start outlining the companies that, we think are a good target for you. Granted, like it's a combined process with you and us working on this target company list, but you have to have a goal or objective. And so we help you to work on that. And then how do you access those companies? Are they going to recruit on campus? Do they do info sessions? Do they go to the major career conferences? Do you need to connect with alumni? Kind of what's the strategy there? And then we help you with networking, especially if you're a non-US student. There are going to be sessions that help you to figure out and acclimate to the US networking style, right? Every country has their own style, and US has one, just like, your country would have one as well. So how do you acclimate to the US networking style so that you can maximize your probability of success in getting a job? I think what's also really impactful is these numbers. So career coaching by the numbers, this was last year when we were virtual. Just look at this. We had 284 employer events, even last year when we were virtual. There were 1,000 interviews. There were 2,300 job postings and 5,400 coaching appointments. So even though last year, we were in a virtual environment or a hybrid environment, we were still able to really provide results for our students. This year, we are fully back in person. Everything, students are back taking classes in person, et cetera. The last couple of slides just really show you the kind of results of the MBA class of 2022 internship outcomes. So you'll see that the internships for this past summer, broken down finance, technology, consulting, all the way down. No surprise, right? That's kind of typically what you'll see in most business schools. You'll see also the average monthly salaries and the placements and how many percentages were paid. The full-time outcomes for the class that just graduated. Again, you'll see the breakdown: financial services, consulting, technology, all the way down to healthcare. I think what's different about Georgetown is that we actually have more percentages broken out at the bottom. A lot more business schools have higher chunks or higher percentages in financial services and consulting, and certainly those are our largest chunks, but they're not as large as some schools. So that means two things. One, you don't feel pigeonholed if you get to business school and decide, wow, there's other things I'd rather be doing. That's great. We have a lot of opportunities in that. Also, you're not competing against half of the class for some of these top firms, right? If you want to go into the top 3 consulting firms, you're not competing against 40% of your peers that also want to go into it, right? It's a smaller pool within McDonough that you're competing against. So it makes it naturally less divisively competitive within the program because people are wanting to do all different things. And then I'll wrap it up by saying, what are we looking for? We are looking for students who have executive presence, who are critical thinkers, who have a global mindset, because we have a global mindset. It doesn't mean you have had to have traveled abroad. Certainly that's one way to get a global mindset, but how have you learned about other countries and cultures and people different than you from where you're from. And then really rounding out and making our community as special as it is that generosity of spirit, that Hoyas helping Hoyas mentality, because that's what's true to our values. And we want to recruit the next group of students who are going to share that same spirit. So that's all I have. I very much welcome you and look forward to you joining the Q&A later, and would be happy to answer any questions that you have during that session. All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Shelly, for this really insightful and valuable information about McDonough. So we have some pre-submitted questions that I'd like you to address. So the first question is related to the diversity considerations. So how does the McDonough admissions office incorporate diversity consideration in crafting a cohort?
Yeah. So everything about people are unique. And what is it that makes you unique and you diverse? So, we craft a diverse class based on gender, based on race and ethnicity, based on sexual orientation, based on industry background, academic major background, country. Are you married? Do you have kids? Like all those types of things make a classroom just rich with diverse perspectives. And that's really where you get to learn. And because we have such a diverse class, there's different events that happen throughout the year where you do get to learn from others. And so, for example, like this coming weekend is our international festival where our 37 countries that are represented will share what's special about their country. Last week, we had a veterans event for Veterans Day where our veterans shared their war stories and what it meant to serve in the military. So there's so many different events that we do that really showcase the diversity of the student peers and the student group. And so that's what we look for when we look to build a diverse class.
The next question is the criteria for granting scholarships. And does a higher GMAT score is an advantage?
So the scholarships are given out based on a holistic review in order to admit a competitive and diverse class. So we look at everything in your application. We are looking to build both a competitive and diverse class. So, the GMAT score is one component of your application. Obviously, if you do really well in the GMAT, that's going to be a positive in the holistic review. Now, if you don't do well in the GMAT, maybe there's other parts of your application where you have done really well, or maybe your interview is phenomenal, or maybe your work experience is incredible and impactful. So it's not going to hurt you to have a higher GMAT score. But if you don't, what else is there that makes you above average? Because at the bottom, the bottom line is that we have limited scholarship funds. And so we have to compare every single student against one another. And so just depending on how competitive the pool is, you're being compared against your peers. And the most competitive students are going to be the ones that receive the scholarships.
Cool. Speaking of competition, tell us how admission applications have been for round one. What is it like? Where are you now in round one, and what can you recommend for people who are applying round two and subsequent rounds follow?
Yeah, round one applications are up this year for full-time, which I anticipated that they would be flat, to be very honest, because we've seen the last 2 years, our applications have gone up about 10% every year. And so I thought for sure this year was going to be flat, but it was up again in round one. And so that's exciting for us, but I know it's stressful for applicants. We don't know what round two is going to bring. We're just not sure. So we kind of have to wait and see. And so, it's best to apply when your application is ready, but apply as early as you can. So if you don't feel like your application is going to be ready by round two, don't apply. But if it is, then please do, to maximize your probability of success.
Cool. I want to add something to this question. What do you recommend for international students for subsequent rounds?
Yeah, I will say our international applications for round one skyrocketed. they were dramatically increased in round one. And I don't know if maybe it's an effect of COVID, people putting off their plans the last couple of years. But if you are an international student, I think for this year specifically, for fall 2022, I would try to get in for round two, just based on how much they were up for round one.
Interesting to know.
Yes.
So as you know, that many people are coming to an MBA having a different goal in their mind. If someone wants to change their career path, what primary skills do you look for in such a candidate?
Yeah, so anyone can change their career path. I mean, I have seen people go from being a high school history teacher to working at JP Morgan on Wall Street. I've seen people go from being an engineer at an engineering firm to working in consulting. Like, I've seen the most stretched career switches. The important thing is, what are your transferable skills? How are you articulating your transferable skills in your interview, in your resume? How do you plan to use our MBA program and your experience in DC to make that switch? What clubs are you going to be in? What certificates or classes? Are you going to do some pro bono consulting internships? Like what are you going to do to make that switch? And once you've thought through it and you've articulated it, then you're more confident moving forward. So that's what I would recommend.
Cool. So this was our last question. We are almost over time now. So thank you so much, Shelly, for joining us today. We hope this session provided everyone with really valuable information about McDonough. In case if anyone have any questions, they can join our Zoom breakout session, and the link will be provided in the comments section. And if you like these sessions, do give us a like and subscribe to the GMAT Club YouTube channel. Thank you once again, and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you so much.